Hi guys, I'm back to do another video. I mentioned in my uh wrap up for all the books I've read in 2021, I mentioned I would do a few reviews for you on some of the books that I read. Um I mentioned I would do one on Full Circle by Andrea Barber, Next Level Basic by Stassi Schroeder, and then one for Make It Nice by Dorinda Medley. I currently don't have all of them with me, but this video is going to be a review on Full Circle by Andrea Barber. So let's just get into the video so we're not here for 4 hours. So Full Circle by Andrea Barber, I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. For those of you who don't know her, she is Kimmy Gibbler on Full House and on Fuller House. She was one of my favorite characters. My all-time favorite character is Candace Cameron Bure, who played DJ Tanner. Shout out Candace. I absolutely love you. I adore you. I love everything you do. You are the best. But Andrea is a close second to her. The one thing I did find interesting about the book was that she did talk about a lot of stuff in here, but the one thing I found interesting was that after she finished Full House, she didn't really quit acting. She took a break from acting, which is basically quitting acting, to go to college. She because she only did the show for 8 years, and then I guess she didn't want to do acting anymore, so she went, like I said, she went to school, and then she got married and had a baby, and now she's divorced, I believe. And it was interesting to read her perspective on the whole thing, because I have read Jodie Sweetin's memoir. I have to reread that because I do want to do a review on that one. But it was interesting to get her point of view on what she thought about doing the behind the scenes stuff on Full House. It's interesting because even though she was a teenager when she got the role, for those of you who may not know this about her, she was only supposed to be, her character Kimmy Gibbler was only supposed to be in like three or four episodes, I believe, in the first season, and then she became a fan favorite. So they asked her to have a recurring guest star role, on the show, and then she became a full-time, I can't think of the word they use for it, a full-time cast member. So her book was really, really interesting. The other parts that I found interesting were, of course, the Full House parts. I love how she wrote about all the behind-the-scenes stuff. Some of it I found interesting that I didn't know about it was that she wasn't, even though her and Candace were around the same age, what Jodie Sweetin mentioned in her memoir, from what I can remember about it, is that she wasn't accepted by Andrea and Candace. And the same thing happened in her book that happened in Jodie's book. That, from what I can remember, is that because Jodie was 8 years old when she got the role as Stephanie, she and Jodie weren't that close. She was closer with Candace because her and Candace were teenagers. And I found that really interesting because Candace played her sister, and Jodie played her, and Jodie was the middle sister. but Andrea did play Candace's best friend on Full House, and now all three of them are very, very close in real life. But it was interesting to me to see how her relationship with Candace developed throughout the years compared to her relationship with Jody. And of course, the Olsen twins were babies, so she writes about that in there. But what it was like meeting the Olsen twins when they were babies. She never became close with the Olsen twins only because they were babies. But it's interesting how she writes about everything. She also writes about how John Stamos, Dave Coulier, and Bob Saget were always doing, when the kids weren't working, they were always joking around behind the scenes and what did she say? Joking around behind the scenes. And then she also mentioned that they were always like father figures to her and to all the girls on the show. And because Bob Saget and Dave Coulier were comedians, they always made jokes here and there. And it's interesting how she writes this, because when the reboot for Fuller House came about, it's interesting because she didn't want to go back to acting when they picked up the reboot for Fuller House, courtesy of John Stamos. Because I guess she wrote about it in the way of it being that she was over the whole Kimmy Gibbler thing. She was over the whole Full House thing. She was excited it was coming back. She mentioned she would guest star on it a few times, but she didn't want to be a full-time permanent cast member because of... she just didn't want to do acting anymore. And then... and because she had a daughter and she had a husband, she just wanted to be a stay-at-home, full-time mom. And that was very interesting because I didn't think... I always thought that she would return to acting at some point, and she did. But it was interesting to see that when she did it, she only did it for Fuller House, because now she retired from acting again. The last thing she was in was Fuller House, and I haven't seen her in anything since. Candace is still acting, and Jody is still acting, and so is John Stamos, and I believe Dave Coulier is still doing comedy. But it's interesting to read. Hers was really interesting because hers is told in a different perspective than, let's say, Jody's book or any of Candace's books when she mentions Full House in it. I'm currently reading, side note, Candace's brother's, Kirk Cameron, Candace's brother's book right now, and there will be a review on his book at some point when I'm finished with it. But he talks about the same thing with him being on Growing Pains, and that's interesting too, to read his perspective. But I guess because hers was a unique perspective, she didn't want to go back to it. But it was also interesting because when she got the call from... She contemplated it a few times whether or not she wanted to go back. But then, like I said, when she wanted to go back to do Fuller House, she wasn't so sure. Yes, she did have her doubts. And it became a syndicated TV show. It was on for 5 years. After being off the air for 30 years and being in reruns and all the stuff. But it was interesting to read how she came to do it. And how she came to do it was she found out from Candace that the show was coming back, and Candace asked her to do the show. And she said, I don't know if I want to be a full-time cast member, but I would come back and do guest starring roles. Because the show was supposed to be centered around the same premise as Full House, but flipped, where Candace and Jody, where Candace is raising her 3 boys after her husband dies, and Jody moves in with her and helps her raise her 3 boys. So it's basically Full House but flipped, and it's in Candace's perspective and not Danny Tanner's perspective, or Bob's perspective. But she said she would come back and do guest starring roles, but she didn't officially say yes, which is a little weird because she didn't officially say yes. Well, not weird. It's interesting because she didn't officially say yes until she got a call from Jeff Franklin and John Stamos. And then she said, you know what? I think this is a good opportunity to get back into acting. Yes, I will do it. So it was interesting to about all that, to say the least, because I didn't know about that. And then when she left, when Full House, the other part that was interesting was when Full House ended, they didn't know it was ending after 8 seasons. They thought it was going to go on for 4 more years. And then when they found out that it was getting canceled, it was funny. She mentioned in the book, which I never knew, I've heard I read about it online, I heard rumors about it online, I read speculations, but apparently it's not that Jeff Franklin didn't want to keep the show going. I guess towards the end of the series, I don't think Bob Saget and John Stamos and Dave Coulier wanted to do the show anymore, because I guess it was just getting to the point where it was the same, not storyline every episode, but it was like the same like backstory every single time. And I guess it was just to the point where it's like they've been there, they've done that, they've done this, they've done that, and I guess they were just running out of stuff, that the 3 of them just were getting tired of it and they didn't want to do it anymore. And they needed the whole cast to do it, so that's why it got canceled, which was interesting because I did read online that there were some rumors that Jeff Franklin didn't want to do it because he left to do Hanging with Mr. Cooper halfway through the show, and that's why it got canceled. I read that people in the cast got into fights and they didn't want to do it anymore, but the way she cleared it up was really interesting to me. It's about, let me see, 231 pages. It's a quick read. I read it in about maybe 2-3 days. It's really interesting to see her perspective. I honestly think the picture on the cover is really cute. She looks so pretty. I love it. I love how full circles in red. So basically a little wrap up of this because it was quick. Full Circle by Andrea Barber, 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. Everything she talked about and everything she mentions is extremely interesting, very well written. It was a page turner every time, every page. It was a quick read. I could read this in like 3 days, which I did. I could not put it down. I was just so mesmerized by it because I was like, what is she going to say next? What is she going to say next? What is she going to say about this from Full House? So if you're a huge Full House fan like I am and you love Full House and you love Andrea Barber and the whole series, I would highly recommend picking this book up. It's very good. You will not be disappointed. You can take this with you to the beach. You can read it in the summer by the pool. You can read this anywhere you want. If you're going on a long plane ride, this could be very entertaining and occupy your time and make it go quicker. It's a very, very, very good book. I would highly recommend it. 5 out of 5 stars. It's great. Alrighty, so that was my okay, so that's my wrap up for Full Circle by Andrea Barber. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything else you want to know, and I'm happy to tell you. Let me know if you've read the book. I would love to know. And yeah, and I will see you guys soon in my next video, which will probably be another review on either Stassi Schroeder's book, Next Level Basic, or Make It Nice by Dorinda Medley. More videos to come, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.